Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Whose Future Is It Anyway? How you can excel in the rental housing industry, powered by the AANC NextGen Committee. I am Betsy Kirkpatrick with BG Multifamily and the chair of the AANC NextGen Committee. I'll be the host, whether you like it or not, for our time together today. Unfortunately, due to COVID circumstances, we had to transition to a more traditional Zoom style webinar. That doesn't impact the amazing content we have packed into our session. And we definitely feel like, even though this is a last minute decision, we know it's the run. We do hope to be able to bring you our talk show style webinar at some point, either end of this year or beginning of this coming year. With that, please note, if you have a question, submit it through the chat and your attendee control panel, and we'll try to get to them as they come in. Also, we have Stephanie Walborn from our NextGen Committee here to hang out with you in the chat. And answer some questions, reply to things, and run some of our giveaways. We'll be giving away a gift card in the session, as well as some gift cards in a drawing for those that fill out the survey to follow. I'd now like to highlight our webinar sponsor, Tribbles. And today we have Angela Roberts representing the company. Welcome, Angela.
Hey everyone, my name is Angela Roberts. I am your North Carolina Territory sales rep for Tribbles Incorporated. A little bit about Tribbles is that we are the oldest parts distributor in the United States, started in the late 1800s, and we incorporated in 1936. We are currently, and probably always will be, family owned and operated. We have 36 locations, a number of hubs, and we can service pretty much anywhere in this viewing area. We are the largest on this side of the Mississippi, and we're here to help you for all your parts and appliance and heating and air conditioning needs. I've been with the company for going on 14 years now, and I transferred down here from our Maryland location, which is our corporate location in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And we have a great crew in our Morrisville store. We're located at 300 Dominion Drive, Suite 575 in Morrisville. If you need to go pick something up, it's there. If you need something delivered, we'll bring it to you free of charge on our delivery truck. If you need something emergency, give me a call. I'll bring it to you as well that same day if we have it, as long as we have it in stock. And we service GE, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, LG, Samsung, Bosch, a number of HVAC systems like Trane and Goodman, and let's see, what else do we have? Bryant, American Standard. I think we have a little bit of everything. We also carry some aftermarket parts for all of that as well. The Mars and Packard and Fasco motors and various other things that we carry. So I hope you all enjoyed this presentation with the panelists, and I look forward to meeting you and talking to you soon. Give me a call and I will come visit and bring you a catalog and anything else that you may need. I hope you have a wonderful day, and again, enjoy this presentation. Have a great one.
Thank you so much, Angela. That was wonderful. And I hope that you all give a look to Tribbles and see if they can help you with any of your needs. Now, I'm honored to introduce our esteemed panel of industry leaders. Today, we have Fred Kichak, Maintenance and Service Vice President with Blue Ridge Companies, Stephanie Lloyd, a National Sales Executive with J. Turner Research, Natalie Ross, Regional Marketing Manager with Morgan Properties, Barry Craven, Regional Service Manager with Ginkgo Residential, and Shane Ravy, Senior Community Manager with Tribridge Residential. In our time together, we're going to talk about getting started in the industry, advice and lessons learned, social media etiquette, moving up in the industry, networking, and more. So let's jump right in. All right, guys, we're going to do a bit of a rapid fire question to find out a little bit more about each and every one of you. So we're going to start off with some career background. And I want to know if you can try to do one word or less. What did you want to do as a career before you started in the industry? I'm going to start off with Fred.
Build houses.
Okay. Stephanie.
Elementary school teacher.
Okay. Barry. No words. He didn't even say one word. Okay. Shane.
I need to recover for a minute. State attorney.
Okay. Natalie.
Gemologist.
Okay. Where did you start in your career? And I'm going to go backwards and start with Natalie.
I was a part-time leasing consultant here in Charlotte.
Okay. Shane.
I was recruited directly into multifamily as a property manager.
Okay. Barry. You are muted.
Mute.
I knew it was going to happen.
And I apologize, but my one word answer was entertainment. And I started as a glorified groundskeeper / service tech.
Okay. Stephanie.
A marketing assistant.
Okay. And Fred.
I started as a groundskeeper / service tech in Southern Tier, New York.
Okay. I love it. All right. So, and then lastly, in this little section here, I want to hear from each of you. Why did you choose to stay in the industry? And I'm going to start this one off with Barry. You're still muted, sir.
I will say they kept paying me, right?
Oh, yeah.
That definitely helped. As a young man, I didn't really have a career path, but they kept making sure those checks showed up. So it worked out real well. And then I just got really immersed in all the different learning opportunities. And I've always been somebody that liked to work with my hands. So it worked out very well for me.
Good. All right, Stephanie.
It's like a family. So once you're in the industry, it's a very big, I mean, it's a large industry, but I mean, I know people all across the country, and it's such a family industry to be in. And there's great relationships. It's just, once you're in, you're in.
I agree. Shane.
So I came over with a pretty extensive retail background, and it played well off of my already established skill set of sales and customer service. But at the end of the day, it was far more rewarding to close the sale on someone's home than selling them a sweater.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Natalie.
Same. I was doing part-time leasing and also doing part-time retail, and the checks for leasing were way better than retail. But it was also, in addition to the money, it was also the camaraderie. I realized that, I mean, some of my best friends to this day, I met through the apartment industry. They worked with me on site, or they were a vendor of mine, and they are my best friends for, 7-8 years now. So that's really what keeps me is just the camaraderie of it all.
Yeah, I love that. And then Fred.
Certainly, not one time in my almost 29 years of industry experience have I ever felt that I didn't have job security. That's first and foremost. You have to be able to provide and grow, but mostly really our purpose. I'm filled with purpose every day, and I'm filled with purpose through serving with the people that I work with, serving our residents, helping them in the most integral part of their lives. Moving is the most stressful thing a person can just about ever do. Maybe not the only thing, but it's up there. And, again, the people that you meet.
So that just warmed my heart. Thank you very much for that at this part of the day. All right, so into the larger questions that we were asked for this panel, I want to hear, and this is what I like to call an all skate. So everyone's going to participate in this one, but it doesn't have to be rapid fire and a shorter answer. What piece of advice do you wish you'd been given when you were new to the industry? And I'll start this off with Stephanie.
So the piece of advice that I wish I was given was that you're going to wear numerous hats. Like, just because it's not in your job description doesn't mean that you don't do it. So just that you're going to wear many hats, learn to be adaptable and flexible.
Yeah, that's really good. Natalie.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. I always tell people whether they're starting out or just people that I know who are leasing consultants or assistant managers, they're wanting to move up, they're wanting to get in different areas. I always say, learn everything that you possibly can about every avenue of your company. There was a point in time where I thought that I was going to be stuck in doing exactly what I was doing and I didn't know where to go. And I just started volunteering with my corporate office. Hey, training department, if you need me for anything. And it added extra work to my plate, but it also showed me, okay, I like this, but I don't like this. I like this, but I don't like this. And I wish I would have taken more initiative in the beginning of my career. So that's definitely the advice. I would take the initiative and, just figure out everything that you could possibly do in this industry and then find your avenue.
I like that. All right, Barry.
And I unmuted this time. So I'd have to say really just the importance of getting involved with your local, state, and national level associations and the networking opportunities that affords you, because from a company standpoint, you get your training, but it's company specific, and there's so much more, I guess, common sense, everyday, every company information that you learn through attending, community meetings and many other, networking opportunities, and just really getting involved with your associations. The benefits that it affords you are amazing.
Little plug here for the AANC NextGen committee. Feel free to reach out to us if you want to become a member. All right, Fred.
Sure. Wow. I'd like to actually start my response with a quote that I have here, and it's called, "Life's a journey with problems to solve and lessons to learn, but most of all, experiences to enjoy." In any industry, in any career, experience, that's what you need. It's a journey. Enjoy it. Realize there's going to be highs and lows. Every day that is not always going to be sunny. The grass isn't always going to be green. And just remember this, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want.
Ooh, I feel like we're going to be dropping definitely some notable things here throughout. So whenever Fred gets talking, y'all whip out your pen. Shane, last but not least.
So I guess I wish someone had told me, starting out on site, and I think really important for the on-site teams is just not to take things so personally. We do impact people's homes and we are the face of the community. So we're the point person when residents have any type of frustration. So for me, I took things very personally, something as simple as, a resident decided it was bow time and left their Bojangles cup in the stairwell, and another resident comes and, complains to me about it. I felt like I had personally failed doing my job. So I learned very quickly not to take things so personally.
Honestly, that's something I wish I would have known when I started out. So I wouldn't have had to learn that the hard way. But speaking of that, tell me about some of the lessons that you have learned the hard way, maybe what that taught you. And I'm going to ask that specifically to Natalie and Barry. I'm going to start with Barry.
I would say one of the biggest lessons I learned, and this was a very hard one for me, because initially when I meet people, they have my trust from the start. And I had to unfortunately learn through the industry that you cannot trust everybody that you think you can, and you must inspect what you expect. And you just, don't put your name on the line for somebody else's statement of something being done. Just always put your eyes on it yourself.
That's good. Now,
yeah, so it's similar to what Barry said, but I think what I had to learn the hard way, and it was a lesson I've learned a couple of times, is that our industry, whether you are a vendor on site, in the corporate office, our job is to build rapport with people in all different ways, but especially when you're on site, but it's to build rapport with your customers, with your coworkers, with vendors. But at the end of the day, you are representing your company and their brand, and you have to uphold their policies. And especially if you're on site, you have to uphold that lease agreement. And I think the hardest lesson for me was to have to be put in that mindset that oh, this is a business. So even though I really enjoy this person and I really want to make them happy and I want to do what I feel like is the right thing in my heart, sometimes it is not the best for the company and for the business. And that was definitely, I've learned it a couple of times in a couple of different ways. But that is definitely the hardest thing. And to just know, and kind of piggybacking off of various boundaries. You can still have great relationships with your customers. You can still have great relationships with your coworkers, but understand you are there to do a job. You are there to represent your company and their brand and generate revenue at the end of the day. That's what we're all here for. So just to remember that.
That fiduciary responsibility is, I think, what we like to call that. And I always spell fiduciary wrong, FYI. So just in case you ever see me do that. So with all of those things, those are some like not fun lessons to learn. What makes this industry so rewarding that you would want to stay in, even with some of those not so fun things? Stephanie?
So I have two answers, but I will keep them brief. So I think one of the most rewarding things is because I've been on the owner operator side, but I am also now on the supplier side, supplier partner side. So when I was on the owner operator side, I would say one of the most rewarding things was helping someone find a home. I mean, that's a huge emotional purchase to pay rent. It was so rewarding to be able to help people find their home. They were excited about it. The moment they come in the office, they're like, oh my gosh, I have I found the apartment I want. I mean, that to me is super rewarding to be able to help someone do that. On the supplier side, what is rewarding is being able to help your customers. Maybe there's a problem or an issue that they're trying to resolve and you have the solution or you have a suggestion that they could try. So being able to help our owner operator partners, that's super rewarding as a supplier. So I had two answers.
I love both of those. Yes, absolutely. What is the biggest risk that you have taken in your career? Barry, let's hear from you.
I'd have to say the biggest risk I took in my career was when an opportunity presented itself for me to become a regional service manager for the first time. It was when my company expanded into the Western Division and more or less overnight picked up 37 properties between Houston, Dallas, Vegas, St. Louis, and up until that point, we had been a 1-2 property type growth company, and that changed real quick overnight. So I've always been one to kind of build your wings as you're falling, so you make sure not to allow an opportunity to pass you. So while I knew I was not ready to become a regional service manager, I was sure ready to try. So that would be mine, the opportunity to go to Texas and become a regional service manager. And while I'll say it was an absolute rough ride, like Fred mentioned earlier, the experience that I got was just invaluable.
Follow up to that, what's the biggest lesson that you learned while you were doing that?
So it was, I think it does go back to the trust aspect, but more in terms of making sure before you make your decision that you get all sides of every story, that you cannot just trust and rely on what this team member is saying versus this client versus this city inspector, whatever that might be. So give everybody the opportunity to share their side of the story before you make your decision on which direction to go.
That's really good. Does anybody else have a panel have a big lesson they've learned that would go along with that, or maybe even something different? All right.
I'll jump in real quick with a lesson. I'll say, don't hide behind your mistakes. In this industry, unless you're not actually burning the building down, there's nothing that can't be fixed. And it's easier to recover when you're open and honest and own the mistakes and go to your superior and say, hey, I messed up. Let's work together and work through this, because it then becomes a teachable moment and you'll never make the same mistake twice.
I would totally piggyback on Shane. I'm not really going to add anything, but that is so true. So true. You do a mistake, own it. Don't point blame somewhere else. Just own it, admit to what happened, and you will learn so much more. And you will really be trusted because you own that mistake.
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback off of that. One thing, especially when I was a manager and I had a staff, I always reiterate to them, and I live my life by confrontation does not have to be negative. It can be it's whatever you make it. To me, confrontation does not have to be negative, and I am so anti-office drama. It is ridiculous. And so anytime that I felt an energy shift, or I felt like, somebody had an issue with something or something made someone upset, I would just confront the issue immediately and try to resolve it before it got worse. And I would say the same.
And the only thing I want to add is, we work with so many different people. And each person, I used to think earlier on in my career that if I focused on treating everybody the same way, I was covering myself and I was being absolutely fair. But I never really took the time to get to know everybody. I never realized that somebody actually wanted me to come in the morning and say, how was your weekend? They wanted to connect with me before we got into the meat and potatoes of the day. So those were some hard lessons I learned early on. But when I learned to embrace things like that, it made me grow farther and further than I ever thought I could as far as being a leader.
That's a really great point, and also a really good transition into some of our next questions. As we're talking about leadership, as we're talking about being a leader or identifying the type of leader you want to be led by, because that is also important. What is important to you in a leader? And I will start this one off with Shane.
Ooh. So for me, whether it's developing future leaders or, what I'm looking for in my leadership, and, from superiors, would be someone who is approachable. Because again, we do make mistakes. I need someone who's going to help me turn those whoopsies into teachable moments. And I need to feel comfortable approaching them to say, hey, look, here's a problem, and we collaboratively work together towards a solution. So I definitely think someone who has that open door and has that aura of being easily approachable goes a very long way.
Agreed. How about you, Barry?
So I feel one of the biggest things is somebody that allows me the opportunity to give my opinions. It doesn't have to take them, of course, or anybody else's, but allows all opinions to hit the table and the synergy to occur, because I'm kind of a generational in-betweener. So what I mean by that is, if you're my boss or somebody that I'm supposed to be listening to and you tell me something to do, as long as it's not illegal, I don't care what it is, I'm going to do it. I do want to know the whys of why you're asking that, but I'm not going to act as if I won't do it until you answer those questions, right? So I want somebody that is willing to share the reason for the journey with me, as well as hear my opinions and allow my feedback, to the situation. That's what I appreciate.
That's good. And you guys have all been leaders on properties and in the companies that you're currently in, if you're a supplier. When you are looking to hire, right? So when you're hiring for any role, really, what is most important to you when you're considering hiring or promoting someone, or what skills specifically are you looking for? Is there anything? I'm going to start off with Fred.
Well, first of all, when I'm sitting down and I'm ready to interview someone, I'm over the skills part. In other words, I'm going to take the maintenance side of it. I've already vetted you technically. We have maintenance skills tests. I'm reviewing your resume. I'm calling your references. I've pretty much crossed those T's and dotted those I's. What I'm focused on when I'm interviewing someone, and by the way, I should say, when I'm looking to promote someone, I've already vetted you as well. I know what your skill set is. I believe in you already at the point that you're sitting in front of me. So it's about the attitude, and it's about the right attitude. And, to me, the right attitude is a little bit of humility. I don't need someone to sit in front of me and tell me not necessarily how great they are, but that there's nothing left for them to learn. I want them to be open-minded. Humility is great because sometimes you don't know the right answer. That's what calms you down, brings you to the point where you can ask someone for the right answer. Remember, confidence is not cockiness. You can be confident and not come over cocky. And the last thing I want to say is when I'm interviewing somebody, and I know sometimes people dread interviews and you get nervous, to me, that's a plus. When you're nervous, that means you care. So those are the things that I look for.
I'm also going to ask this to Stephanie because I know that you used to do this for a living. So what about you?
So, I mean, just to Fred's point, just to kind of piggyback on it, is you have to think of things as far as, you know, you can teach them the systems, right? You can teach them how to do the computer stuff. You can teach them the systems, the software, all of that. There's so much crossover with, I think, when you look at like retail or hospitality, when you're coming to our industry. But I saw that I think he chatted attitude 110% all the time. Your attitude, are you positive? Are you willing to learn? And are you teachable? Like, are you teachable? Are you coachable? I even say this, not to like go down a little bit of rabbit hole, but I even say this to my kids. Like, you're young, learn that skill now, be coachable. Someone corrects you or don't, freeze up and not listen to them. And I will tell you, I have one kid that's very coachable and one that is not. And so working with those skills I would just even say at a younger age, being coachable and being able to be taught something, I think are two really, really big things.
Shane, what about you?
It's almost like these guys took the words right out of my mouth. The thing I have is absolutely positive attitude. You must have an upbeat demeanor and a positive attitude. All of the skills and everything that we do is teachable. So what I don't look for is experience. Some of my best hires have been the green people that walked through my office door and had never done this a day before in their life. And hello, I had never done this before. I was recruited directly in as a property manager, and I love it. And all of the skills, everything that we do day in and day out, whether it's on the maintenance side, the property side, the vendor side, it's all teachable. So it's more about your attitude and coachability.
So one thing I didn't hear any of you guys say, and for those of you who don't know, I don't have a college degree, and I've been in the industry for a long time, and I haven't heard any of you say a college degree. So I would love to hear from some of you guys. Do you feel like that's necessary? And Natalie, let's hear.
I would say no, because I don't have a college degree either. That was one of the things is when I got out of high school, I told myself I was going to take a year off because I wasn't really fully committed to what I thought I wanted to do. And I, took up part-time retail, then took up part-time leasing. And then I saw that my career could grow from there. So I don't look at college degrees at all. But I did want to say one of the things I look for is confidence. And when I interview somebody, I have them rate themselves. So I'll usually pick 4 or 5 skills that I need them to have, whether that be customer service. Is it, how comfortable are they on social media? How comfortable are they, doing resident events and engagement activities? And I say, rate your scale on a 1 to 10 and tell me why. And I want to hear, and I actually, if they rate themselves low, that's like a negative to me. I'm like, no, I want you to feel really good about yourself. 7s are higher.
Definitely having a really good idea of where your skills are and where they are not, and what areas of opportunity you might have to grow is huge. Shane, you unmuted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a college degree. Those dreams of me, at one point wanting to be a real estate attorney kind of flew out the window when life just sort of happened and I found myself in the workforce. And looking back now, I have 0 regrets. I love my job. I absolutely love what I do. And I don't have a cloud of student debt that's hanging over me. And we are so multifaceted. We're sales, we're service, we're maintenance, we're management, we're marketing, we're accounting, we're event planners, we're construction. And yeah, maybe if you want to be in accounting, sure, yeah, you probably need a degree, but there are so many avenues and so many things that we can do within this industry that you can flourish in without a degree.
Fred, I saw you. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I absolutely support college. I absolutely support learning. I did not go to college. I chose to go into the Navy straight out of high school. But here's the thing. I never stopped learning. This all has to do with attitude. It's not the degree by your name. It's not the title by my name. It's about what's in your heart. It's about what's in your head. You need to invest in the best tool that you possibly have. And the best tool that you have is right up here. That's what you give to each and every person. That's all those experiences go up there, all the knowledge that you can get from asking questions. Early on in my career, I sounded like a 5-year-old kid following everybody around going, why? But you know what? After a while, I didn't have to ask that why anymore because I knew it. And listen, the last thing, we're going to support and champion this industry. What I love about this industry is they pour training opportunities into you every day, and in so many different diverse, topics and strengths. And so, just be open to it. And it's just amazing where you can end up.
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump on that real quick, Betsy. I want to clarify from something that Fred said. I'm absolutely not anti-education. Education is important. And I do think, especially industry education, as you continue along in this field, it's super important. But I just want to stress the point that college isn't for everyone. It was the vision that I had for myself, and it just didn't come to be. But in today's world, it's not for everyone. And I know, for me in the Charlotte market, our local association actually has programs in place to start to teach multifamily credentials in the local high schools. And I think that's a great opportunity for people, coming out of high school or even out of community college that want to enter directly into the workforce.
Yes. So those certifications, to Fred's point, to your point, certifications and skill programs are they're every bit as valid as a college degree. And you can do things with that. There are some things that my sister's a veterinarian. I really don't want her working on my cat without a college degree. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, you don't have to have it for everything. It's absolutely valid. But you don't have to have it for this career necessarily. So Fred, you mentioned a couple of times about you've identified people and you're supporting them, you want to grow them in the industry. As we're talking about these people that are in the chat, and by the way, I see all of your great questions. We're going to get to them in just a minute. But how do you find and grow emerging leaders within your organization? How do you reach that hand back and pull people forward?
Well, first, I want to go back to attitude. And I promise you, I've been with Blue Ridge 21 years. I try to get to know the folks that are out there, but attitude is everything. Come in every day and just try to do the best job at what's in front of you. Because I promise you something, that person that's focused on doing the best that they can, they're going to stand out to me. You don't have to blow a horn or throw up a flare and draw attention to yourself. Just the sincerity of what you're doing every day is going to do that. I want to say this, as far as everyone that's out there that wants to grow, the first thing you have to do is realize that you have to get out of your comfort box at some point, right? There's a lot of things early on. I'm like, hey, I was a very technical person. I understood that. But to grow into the position that I'm in now, I had to start learning about finances. I had to start focusing on government affairs and codes and standards and refinancing. And I mean, there's just so many things. And I would go into these rooms with these people that were talking, and it just made me feel overwhelmed. I know that certain times when you guys are out there, you're going to feel the same way. If you're passionate about growing and moving, if a leader comes to you and they're looking to grow you and they ask you to do something that might feel a little uncomfortable, think real hard. That's a box that you should probably try to step out of. And I guarantee you, before long, it'll be inside your box and you'll be comfortable and you'll be ready for that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with all of that, Fred. And I will say, to me, it really just boils back to attitude. That's what we've all been saying. And I do the best I can to try to identify that during the interview process, because I'm not trying to hire somebody to just fill a position. I'm not trying to hire somebody that, just solves a void. I'm wanting to look for that person that eventually wants to take my job, and the aspiration of somebody that wants to grow in this industry or any industry that they're entering. To me, like the nervousness of the interviewee, like Fred mentioned, that's a wonderful thing. I want you to be nervous because that shows me that you're vested and you want this, So I start with the interview process on trying to identify those future, star employees. And then I also really rely on their direct supervisors to talk up the ladder and keep us informed as to the good that they do. And anytime I have new employees that start, I always, at least that first month, and doing a once a week check-in with their service manager or property manager, whatever that might be, just to gauge their idea of how this new hire is doing, if there's areas that we could help to improve. And I try to tell people to focus more on improving somebody's strengths than their weaknesses, because too many companies and organizations focus on everybody being able to do all tasks and not focusing on their strength and working more on correcting their weaknesses. And while you may make me through a bunch of training a better Excel user, you're never going to make Barry a good Excel user. I just think there's a lot of benefit in focusing on the proper things, but identifying those people really starts from day one, and the attitude is what it all boils down to.
I think to Barry's point, building each other up, building the next generation of leaders up. And I would say this like across associations, when you're thinking about leadership within like a committee or something like that, we all eventually want to retire. I think that's the goal, that we eventually all want to retire. So we definitely need to build the future leaders up to take our jobs eventually one day. And, I see this through associations where you have your committee chairs, identifying those key committee members that are going to be the next leaders of that committee or the next board member. But it's the same within your organization. Eventually, I think we can all agree we do want to retire and move maybe somewhere tropical or something, but we got to identify those people because this industry is amazing and it has so rewarding and a wonderful thing, but identifying those people early to help them grow within your organization, whether it's on the supplier side, on the association management side, or owner operators.
And keeping them engaged is very important.
Yep, that's absolutely true. And I think another important thing is, just ask your team, ask your people, what are their goals? What are their aspirations? And for me, having those conversations, don't wait until the end of the year when you're doing their annual review. It should be an ongoing open dialogue. And then as a leader, we should be working to help them see that path, to help them get to where they want to be. Because again, there are so many avenues that we could take within multifamily. And I think from an external standpoint, recruiting, again, some of the green people are the best people. And sometimes your next talent may not currently be in multifamily. And, keep your business cards on you. That Starbucks barista that's whipping up your pumpkin spice latte might be your next superstar.
For those that are next gen that are in this, or you're new in your career, the other side to that is your leader may not be the person that comes back and has that conversation with you. Then you need to have that conversation with your leader. You need to be prepared to advocate for yourself and say to your leader, hey, I want to know what my next steps could potentially be with this company in this industry. And what do I need to do to get to those places? If they don't have it with you, have it with them, right?
Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
Stephanie, you mentioned a couple of different avenues in the industry, and I know you specifically have worked in several different areas in the industry as a whole. So I'd love to hear from you. What do you do if what you're looking to move into isn't necessarily your next step? How do you move into different areas of the industry? And just a quick example, like I did not want to be, I was a regional or a senior property manager, and I had multiple different places that I did training with, et cetera. And I was a regional trainer, but I didn't want to be a regional manager. So I ended up moving into a different supplier side of the industry. So what for you, how would you do that? What would your advice be?
So I think Natalie said it earlier, learn as much as you can within the organization and find out what you want to do. And to what you said, Betsy, if it's not, the next step is not to be a regional, or the next step is you don't have any interest in being a property manager, whatever it may be. Thinking of things, a lot of skills are transferable. I mean, think about it. When you're if you're on the on-site team and you're sales, you're leasing, you're selling apartments, well, that can be transferable to the supplier side. in sales, but you're selling a product or a service. So it's a little bit different. I think that really the focus is just figure out what you want to do. And, in 5 years, it may change. And you'll be like, I thought I wanted to do this, but maybe I don't. And so, but don't be scared of that, because our industry, there's so many different things you can do. You can work for an apartment association. We have incredible apartment associations across North Carolina. You could work for an apartment association. Maybe event planning is your thing and you really want to be an event planner. There's things like that at the apartment association where you do the programs and you plan events for the association. I think it just really goes back to what Natalie said, discovering what you want to do. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, you stick to one thing and that's what you have to do your entire career. I am definitely a prime example of that because I have switched a couple different times, but just discovering what you want to do, understanding that your skills that you have in one role can fit other roles, I think is probably the main thing.
Yeah, and I'll jump in there as well. I think I'll revert back to the college statement. I'm team Fred, not Shane. I think college is very important. No, I'm joking, Shane, but I will say it's not for everyone. And when you look at it from the standpoint of most people that enter college are doing so from the ages of 18 to 22 or 29, depending on how many, 12-year college people we have. But I don't know about y'all, but I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do when I was 18 to 22 years of age. And I try to tell people this when I'm interviewing them, because a lot of times I'll see skill sets in an interviewee that I think would be better applied to a different avenue of the industry than service. And I'm open and honest with these people, come in, let's get going. Your attitude has awarded you this opportunity, but don't understand, just understand that you don't have to be a service tech or a service person, turning wrenches your whole life. But it's a great way to get into the industry and then start learning the pieces that are better suited to you. And don't be afraid, like Stephanie said, to make a shift, and we've had definitely crossover employees with this company that, not that they weren't successful in their initial role, but when they transferred into that role that was really meant for them, you saw them soar.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. We had a couple of questions in the chat, and I'm going to ask one of them right now. So Brittany said she's the assistant community manager in her community, and some of the people that work there are not as people friendly as she is. So she ends up having a lot of prospects and residents who only want to speak with her because of their experience. How can she address it? And she's still finding herself doing a lot of the leasing tasks still. Oh man, letting go of that responsibility and delegating, man, that's not fun. Who wants to take this one?
I'd like to answer just real quick. Not many people know this, but in 2010, Blue Ridge had a growth spurt, and they actually asked me to wear two hats. Not only was I in my position as the vice president of property of maintenance and service, I was also a regional manager for a year. One of the properties that I was a regional manager for was coming out of construction. Sometimes we had shifts in which happens it's quite common on site, and looking to promote people or looking to challenge people going in the door. Here's what I would say to you. It's the same thing with me. Sometimes it's hard to go to people to see the potential in somebody and then to see it not executed. I think if you're sincere, and not sincere about telling them that they're wrong, sincere about telling them that you believe in them, right? That's the first thing you need to say. This is why it's impactful. This is what we need to do. Don't tell them what they've done. Tell them, look, we need to work. Can we work together? I believe in you. I'm not going to be successful. This property is not going to be successful without you. And make them be a part of your success moving forward.
I love that. Shane?
So I think this is the same Brittany that said she still didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up. And I'm just saying, I don't either. I'm just taking it day by day over here. But I think one thing that you could do, Brittany, in this situation is, again, I'm all about teachable moments. So when that resident comes into the leasing office and only wants to speak to you, pull the leasing agent or whoever else was, at the front of the office that they chose to bypass, pull that person into the conversation. That's going to make that president more comfortable going directly to that person in the future. And it's also teaching that staff member how to answer those types of questions should they arise again in the future.
We like to call that role practice, which not only is it them watching you do it, but it's also doing it with them. So just the two of you be that hard. I mean, that's not fun for anyone. Nobody loves role play. We call it role play because nobody loves that. It's not an enjoyable thing to do, but it is a necessary skill building thing, not just watching you do it, but also interacting with you to do that. Topaz asked, what is your best approach for handling if you've noticed that you may have bitten off more than you can chew? That's good.
I'll jump in first for this one. When you realize that you have bitten off more than you can chew, admit it. Admit it and say, I thought I could do all this, but I can't. I mean, just admit it and ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Say, I did this. I really thought it was something that I could accomplish, but I can't. I need help. I need an extra set of hands. Or would you want to partner with me on this? Is there something, can we work on it together? I mean, admit it and ask for help.
And I'm gonna jump in here too. So if you know your plate is already loaded, you have to be able to learn how to say no. Sometimes when you're the yes man and you're the person that everybody comes to and they continue to dump things on you, they're going to think that that's okay. You have to be able to say, hey, I really would love to help you with that project, but my plate's a little full right now. Can this person or this person jump in and help with this task? And then, to Stephanie's point, if you do get behind and you aren't able to do something that you committed to, don't wait too late to speak up. Your deadlines, it all rolls downhill. Your deadline, it affects someone else's deadline and then someone else's deadline. So if you know you're not going to be able to accomplish tasks, don't wait until the 11th hour right before it's due to go to someone and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to get this done. Plan ahead, failing to plan is planning to fail.
Go ahead, Barry.
I was going to say, it's kind of that eat that frog mentality. And what I mean by that is, if you have a piece of steak and a piece of chicken and a frog to eat, you have to eat all of them, right? Start with the frog, get the bad stuff over with. That way you can finish with that steak and go to sleep happy.
So we're going to come back to questions here in just a minute, but we're going to go into a few of the things that were planned more for this, and then we'll come back to questions at the end. So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about networking, mentoring, and associations. I personally have found that one of the best ways to move forward is a really strong network. And I want to hear from you guys what you feel like the importance of networking is, or how important it is. I'm going to start off with Natalie because we haven't heard from you in a little bit.
It is everything. So I'm going to make this story very short. But like many, I was laid off during COVID. The position that I had, I was working in Atlanta at the time. I started my career in Charlotte and I was here for a few years and then moved to Atlanta to further my marketing career. And my portfolio in Atlanta was just very niche. It was new development. And when COVID happened, the company that I worked for was not sure if we were going to continue to develop these properties. They weren't sure of how the economy was going to go. So I ended up being laid off and realized very quickly, oh, I need to pay my rent. So do I stick it out in Atlanta or do I come home to Charlotte and try to figure it out? And if I wouldn't have spent so much time making the connections that I did in Charlotte when I was here and networking and even going to Atlanta and keeping up with, Betsy and I would talk when I was still in Atlanta. We actually met up in Atlanta a couple of times at a Braves game. And so if I didn't keep those relationships, I got a job in a month from the date that I was laid off. And I owe that all to my networking. I owe that from being on apartment association committees when I was here in Charlotte, meeting people, becoming Facebook friends with them, keeping up with them, and the happy birthdays and the how are yous and the texting. And if I didn't do that, I would not be where I am now. So networking is so, so important. And there's so many different ways that you can do it. You can network within your company, join an apartment association committee, just attend the events and just meet people and, continue to build that rapport. It's like I said earlier, your entire career is about building rapport with people in whatever avenue that is. So continue to do that.
Barry, you look like
Yes, I'd like to jump in on that as well. You could tell I was excited. I'm a person who I've always, if I had a goal I wanted to reach, or if I had somebody that I wanted to be like, right? I wanted to surround myself with those types of people. So the opportunities to get in front of the people that are so much more experienced than you and can help continue to grow your passions is very valuable. And without the networking and the activity in the associations, you really miss out on a lot of opportunities to engage with some amazing people. And just the opportunity to sit and hear some of their experiences and their suggestions is just invaluable. And that's one of the biggest things that I've taken from the making sure to stay active with networking.
So I've heard several of you mention associations, apartment associations. I would love to hear a little bit more about why you feel like apartment association involvement is so important to networking. I'm going to bop over to Stephanie and then Fred.
So I think, getting involved in networking through your apartment association, there's so many things. We talked about education earlier. We talked about certifications. Your apartment associations offer you that. That's, the first place I would go. You're wanting to get your HVAC, if you're wanting to get some leasing skills, leasing boot camp, fair housing classes, they offer so many classes and certifications, just getting that additional education. But to what Barry said, learning from others. So when you're in the association and you're networking and you're having those discussions, grabbing those nuggets from having that, those conversations. And as a supplier, building all those relationships. We're in the relationship business. I think no matter what side of the industry that you're on, it's a relationship business. So networking through your apartment associations. I know Natalie has said, and I think of a couple others, some of my best friends, this is how I met them. So just having that relationship, and if you need something or something, you know who to call or ask a question, be like, oh, I know I can call Fred. He'll know the answer. Let me find out for you. And, being able to have that call, all that comes from networking.
Being involved in the apartment association, volunteering, here's a question. If not you, then who, right? Look at this panel of folks here. Every one of these folks are volunteers. Every one of these folks have been given something by this industry. Every one of these folks that you're looking at have made a specific goal to try to give it back. And, it's even beyond giving back, although I will tell you that, I think giving, we've heard this is very common, right? Giving is far better than receiving. I found that to be very fulfilling. When I talk about purpose in this industry, I think I have to always tie it into volunteering and being a part of the associations. You've got local associations, you have state associations, and you have national associations. They're extremely diversified, which is what Stephanie said. Yes, you're going to receive education in everything you do, but you know what? Your own personal experiences, your own personal point of view, you get on a committee, you have no idea the impact that you can have till you get out there. It's absolutely amazing the potential that you have. The last thing I'll say, it's really saying what Barry's already said. Iron sharpens iron. I think Stephanie solidified that with her comments as well. What you do going together with other volunteers, you get back more than you ever give, and you're in the know. I should have said that too. My boss told me that a long time ago. You need to learn to get into the know. Well, how do you get into the know? You got to go around people that know stuff. And then eventually you're the one who's given that. So again, I support it all the way.
Okay, so you said iron sharpens iron. I agree with that. One of the best ways to have that iron sharpen iron is through mentorship. And so mentorship is another great way to grow in your career. How do you find a mentor? How do you get involved with that mentor, Barry?
Yeah, I almost feel it's our responsibility as the holder of knowledge. It's our responsibility to share that knowledge, to pass that knowledge on. I would not know what I know or be where I am without the wonderful people in my career that have been willing to share that knowledge. And the people that seem to want to hold on to their knowledge and not, give that to their team members. I just never understood it. Like, my job and my successes are directly related to my employee successes. So why would I not give them every piece of information that I have? So I just think it's so important, and it's our responsibility to, give back and share the knowledge that we have. And you've heard your parents say, we learned this the hard way, so you don't have to, right? And to be for sure, when you learn something the hard way, you never forget it. But I also prefer to trust other people's learned lessons and be more efficient and not have to make that same mistake or incorrect path when I know that it hasn't worked out for someone else. So.
That is so true. I agree wholeheartedly. Lastly, I want to hear from Natalie, because I know this is one of your big passions. How important is social media to networking and growing in your career?
It's very important. One of the things I always tell people, in my career, I have watched social media blossom into what it is. When I started in the industry, it was very much like a Facebook page, and that's about it. And nobody really did anything. But even then, my boss would check people's Facebook page just to make sure that they weren't, I don't know, crazy or naked or something crazy. And that was like my first real experience in hiring, is when I was an assistant manager. I had a manager, and we would go through resumes together. She kept me involved in the hiring process, which I really appreciate. And social media was part of it. So even before I was in marketing, I understood the importance of it. And something that I always try to tell people when it comes to your personal social media page, freedom of speech is very big, and people are more than allowed to say what they want and how they feel and share the things that are important to them. But what I always try to remind people is when something is public, even if you are the most private of private, you've got it on lockdown. If you have friends on social media, there's such thing as screenshots. People can take pictures of things. So I always try to let people know, if you are okay, make sure that your social media presence is something that you would also present in a boardroom to your CEO. If you are comfortable presenting that version of yourself in the boardroom of your CEO, then you're completely fine. If you're uncomfortable, maybe figure out a different way to share. Maybe share directly in a text message to your friends, do a FaceTime when you want to complain about something. But it is very important these days, because not only are your employers and your coworkers looking at social media, or people who might not like you or trying to dig a little dirt, but residents as well, right? Our on-site teams, we are expecting them to have Facebook pages and keep up with them. Some have to have Instagram accounts. There are even some teams that are, more new development and savvy, that have TikToks and that still have Snapchat and Twitter pages. And you have to be able to present yourself the same way that you would present yourself to your residents, present yourself to your CEO, and understand that, there might be people out there to get you. So just make sure you don't.
Yes.
On.
Well, as our time together comes to a close, this is an all skate, so I want to hear from everybody. One quick takeaway. What is your biggest takeaway from either a NextGen or for somebody that's leading them? I'm going to start with Shane.
I think for anyone watching, one thing that you can take away today is that there's nothing that any one of us panelists does in multifamily that any of you cannot do. And I probably speak for all of us when I say that I am more than happy to be an advocate to help you do that.
All right, Stephanie.
The days are long, but the years are short. So even though you may be having a bad day or something's going wrong, just remember that, That's just that day. The days are long, but the years are short. And I think that that's just something always to keep in mind when you're on site or whatever you're doing. I just think that.
Yep. Barry.
Don't change you for anybody. Be who you are.
I love it. Natalie.
It's a lot of hard work, but you can do anything that you want to do. You truly, truly can. And I wholeheartedly believe that in this industry. I have a sister who is 6 years younger than me in a different industry, but I continue to tell her when I was your age, I would have never imagined where I am now. But I had to work really, really hard, long hours to get here. But now I love it. And all of you can do the exact same thing.
And then Fred.
I mean, what's the question? Whose future is it anyways? It's your future, period. And as a matter of fact, this industry won't survive without you. Don't look at where you're at today. Dare to dream big. Look at the potential where you could be tomorrow. Set realistic goals. Get in the know. Volunteer yourself. Get around all these fine people that you see on the screen and within your companies. You have no idea what you're looking forward to, but it's going to be amazing. I promise you.
Wow,
I love Stephanie's quote. She said, your future, the industry needs you. Sorry, I just saw that. I thought that was great.
Yes, 100%. Guys, I know we had a couple of questions. What we're going to do is pull this chat and I'll send some responses to each of you that had questions that we weren't able to get to today. And here is the contact information for the panelists. You guys, Barry, Fred, Stephanie, Shane, Natalie, you were amazing. Huge thanks to Tribbles for sponsoring and for Stephanie for moderating the chat. This was great. We can't wait to do this again. And we hope that next time you guys will join us. Thank you so much for being here today. And y'all have a great Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Everybody.
You guys.